So we're going to learn about half double crochet today. I'm starting with a worsted weight yarn, a 5mm hook, and I have 6 chains on my hook. Half double crochet has 2 different ways to do the turning chain and also therefore the number of chains that you skip at the beginning. I'm going to show you my preferred way, and then at the end I'll briefly discuss the other way so you'll be prepared if you encounter that. So we're going to skip 1 stitch at the beginning and work into that 2nd stitch, and I prefer to work into the back. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So I'll do that again, yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull through a loop, so you've got 3 on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And remember to pull all your stitches all the way up onto the barrel of the hook, not down here at the end, especially if your hook is tapered. And remember to always try to pull your stitches loose enough that you have enough slack for your hook to go through. So now we've created our half double crochet, and you can see this is a little taller stitch than a single crochet. And in fact, you can kind of pull it apart and actually see the stitches from the front a bit better. So let's count how many we have here. If we count our top V's, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from the front, you can see the posts a little better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here's our turning chain. And I just want to point out that the 2 V's that we're going to be working into are slightly to the right of the posts of these stitches. And then of course when you turn to work back the other way, it's a little harder to see the posts from this orientation, but the posts will of course have the V's on the left when you turn. So let's do our turning chain, which for the way we're doing half double crochet is just 1. Then turn your work, and of course you can always turn your work and then chain if you prefer. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook into the first stitch or the last stitch that we completed in the previous row. Pull up a loop so you have 3, yarn over and pull through all 3. And we'll do that all the way across. And then when you get to this last stitch, it's often turned just a bit because that just happens when you're turning. Be sure not to work into these 2 stitches, which kind of look like a V, but then if you look at your next stitch, you can see this structure here, and that's what that first V is. It's harder to find the proper 2 legs of your V on a half double crochet because you're tempted to work into this bottom one. Just be sure to turn your work so that you can see the top 2 legs of this stitch and don't be tempted to work into this piece here. So we'll yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And then let's do 1 more row and I can show you increases and decreases. So chain 1 to turn. Let's do the first stitch as regular. And then let's do an increase, which is often called 2 double crochet in the same space, and that's just what it sounds like. So I'll create my first half double crochet here, and then I'll just put the second one right in that exact same space. And that's an increase because we've increased the number of stitches on this row. Then we can decrease on the next 2 stitches. So we're going to decrease these 2 stitches into just 1. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop and stop. When you're doing decreases, you stop before the last yarn over of a stitch, which is what we've done now, and we have 3 loops on the hook. We'll start the next stitch, yarn over and insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then stop because we've stopped right before the last yarn over of the stitch. And at this point we have 5 loops on the hook, we're going to yarn over and pull through all of them at once. And that will take these 2 stitches here down to just 1 stitch on the top. Then we will complete our last stitch of the row. And then let me quickly show you the other way to do a turning chain. This will make more sense if you've watched my double crochet video first, because I did a little bit more in-depth explanation of turning chains there. But the other way to do it is to do a chain 2, and then this chain 2 will count as a stitch. So then you don't work into this stitch next, you work into the following stitch. And then when you come back around, you'll work into the top of this turning chain as if it were a stitch. And again, there's a little more detail on that in my double crochet video. But I just want to show you briefly why I choose not to use that method. Here is a completed swatch of half double crochet, and down here I've used the 2-stitch turning chain counts as a stitch method. And you can see that since the turning chain is a bit smaller than the actual stitch, you get this gap here, which I don't like the look of. But then up here, we've got the turning chains next to the stitch, and while those make the stitches bulkier, your eye doesn't catch extra bulk nearly the way it does extra space. And so that's the main reason that I choose this way, and also that I think turning chains are kind of hard to work into. And then just for fun, I've shown you a couple examples of what you can do with increases and decreases. Here I've started with several stitches and decreased down to a triangle. And here I've started with just 1 stitch and increased up into a fan stitch. And there are some examples of what we've learned today about half double crochet.